Who's that?
Crime lab.
So, Judge, we got a couple of things worth bringing up, I think. One is I prepared an exhibit, which is all the photographs Jessica Brown took at the crime lab on a thumb drive. I also added to that a set of other photographs taken by an adjacent department, I think evidence collection. I don't think there's no dispute as to what those photographs are, but I'm not sure, she didn't take them, I don't think. But I would seek to introduce the full set and ask her to comment on what she knows and doesn't know. I think what she doesn't know is, from a defense perspective, potentially as important as what she does know.
The photographs are of what?
The evidence that was collected at the search warrant.
Okay, from 108 Central?
Right, so in particular, she didn't photograph the sun-kissed orange, and the sun-kissed orange can is not, as of yet, an exhibit.
Okay.
But there was one taken, and it is photographed, and that in particular photograph I would like to question her about, because contents were taken from that sun-kissed orange in the photograph, removed, put in a vial, sent to NMS for testing to see if it had ethylene glycol. So I think she's the only crime lab witness coming in. I don't think there's another witness that could.
So she can authenticate the photos she took, but there's additional photographs that she may not be able to authenticate, but they were from the scene, and you're hoping to get those in as well.
Well, I'd make the motion to get them in right now to clarify as the next exhibit, so that there's no issue about their admissibility, because I think it's just a foundation question. We've been stipulating the foundation.
Mr. Camilio, what's your position with respect to the photographs?
Well, I have no problem with admitting all the photographs that she took, but the other ones, I don't think it's fair to ask her about photographs that she didn't take or evidence that she didn't look at. So
she may or may not be able to speak to those things. I mean, people can if she's at the scene, looked at photographs of a bunch of items, she may or may not be able to comment knowledgeably about other photographs. Do you have any objection to him putting the questions and see if she can speak to them or not?
no, I mean, if she can talk about them, she can talk about them. I just don't think, based on what she's told me, she hasn't. Those photographs are not ones that she took or saw.
Are these photographs of the same items or different items?
Well, she never took a photograph of the Fanta can because she never looked at the Fanta can. So
Okay.
If that's the particular issue, then I think she's going to say, I didn't look at the Fanta can.
Which may be the point that Mr. Scully wants to elicit.
Perhaps.
But in terms of the jury having access to the other photographs that she can't herself authenticate, do you have any issue with that?
Mr. Scully just showed them to me. I don't think so, but I just sort of an abundance of caution, I would have no problem with the ones she took. The other ones I'm going to have to look at again with Mr. Scully.
All right. They're all on the same thumb drive at the moment, but the jury's only going to see whatever any one of you are choosing to put in front of this witness right now.
Right. So we'll need a break before cross-examination. The photographs the prosecutor will recognize them in 30 seconds. They provided us to discovery in a thumb drive. He'll see there, I think, 27 of them or 33 of them in a row. He'll recognize them all. But we will need a break, it sounds like.
Well, I don't.
No, I don't think we need a break. You can pull up any individual photograph, even and ask if the witness can comment on it. The only question is whether Mr. Camillo is objecting to all of them being part of the evidence. Right. But you can see if she can comment on any of these other photographs.
But my issue is, before she comments on it, right, I'm moving them in as an exhibit. And then I'll pull them up on the screen and say, what's been marked exhibit so-and-so? Do you recognize it, yes or no? I know for 17 photos she's going to recognize it.
Pull them up now and let them take a look at it.
Yeah. We can put them on the screen.
Go ahead.
Can you pull them up? Well, while we're pulling them up, the other thing I wanted to mention is there's another witness on the witness list for the prosecution today, Delaria. He was the one wearing the body-worn camera when the first responders came. That body-worn camera is already in as an exhibit. It's already been watched. Our objection would be he can't come in and now narrate the body-worn camera, what he sees and what's on it.
Only the defense gets to do that, is my memory.
Well, what are you intending to do with Delaria?
I intend to have him say what he saw and heard and did while he was at the house.
Okay.
This is that same objection that Your Honor said you didn't want us to do. I did it, right? I asked them questions. I kind of narrowed the focus to
You asked who?
I asked the officer who testified about the video footage that Judy Church took of Leroy Fowler. And I asked a series of questions about what was on that footage,
Right.
what was said, what was heard, and I kind of focused on a few areas. And after, there was no objection. After, the court said, no more of that, and wouldn't have let Attorney Norkunis do it to the next set of camera. But this seems to be what the prosecution wants to do now.
I don't know what they will do, but I made a point at sidebar when we had this discussion that I make a distinction between somebody who's in no better position than the jury to say what the jury has just seen. I typically don't permit that. If someone is involved on the scene, I do permit some explanation of what's going on at a particular moment in the video, because they're there and they can shed some light beyond what the jury may be able to see. I don't know what the Commonwealth's intending to do. If you've got an objection to any what you call narration that's going on, I'll rule on it at the time.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll
now
try to figure it out, but I'm still trying to tease out how that's different. What's about to happen is different from what I did.
Well,
The
the difference is what you were playing a video of the videos that Ms. Church had taken of Mr. Fowler, correct? That's what you were talking about? All right. Those videos that Ms. Church took of Ms. Fowler, the Sergeant Strong or whoever was on the stand wasn't involved, wasn't there, wasn't a participant in these things. And you're saying, did you hear him say this? Did you hear him say that? Did you see him do this? Did you see him do that? That was simply highlighting for the jury what they saw. Strong's in no better position than the jury to say any of those things. That's different than somebody who was present in a scene captured by a surveillance video, for example, who can say, this, yeah, you can't see it, but right off the camera, there's somebody standing right here, or those sorts of things. That's the point I'm making.
But what you didn't let Mr. Norkunis do is there was a body-worn camera of a sidewalk interview.
Judge, just
Wait, let me finish, Mr. Prosecutor.
maybe I could just
Let me just finish.
a little faster, if I could just say one thing. I have no intention of asking him to narrate the video.
Okay, there we go. He's not going to have him narrate the video.
Objection
All right.
withdrawn.
Did you pull up the photos?
Yeah.
Mr. Camilio, you...
I can only see one, Judge.
I'm sorry?
We have to go, yeah, I can only see, I'm looking at them. No, she didn't take them, but it's her.
Those are her initials on there.
Are we seeing right now the witness's actual photographs?
No.
No, those are on a different file, not
Okay.
objected to.
Okay, so these are the ones that were not taken by the witness.
Right. Taken at the Mass State Police Crime Lab. Her initials are on the bags, at least some of them.
I would like to avoid having to bring in somebody else to merely authenticate these photos. I mean, I don't know what...
These are the most important ones here, because this is the only photographs from the crime lab of the Sunkus can, which was collected, but we don't know which of the two, and then was a sample was taken out of it and sent to the laboratory. So I'm trying to show, like, here it is at the crime lab. This is the one, or the Fanta. I'm sorry, I called it Sunkus, but Fanta. So this is really kind of ground zero for these, but there is also the Powerade is in there.
Is that the end of the photos? Have they ended?
That's the last one.
All right. Mr. Camilio?
I certainly don't have any objection to the Fanta photographs. The other ones, I don't have any idea what they're relevant to, but whatever. They don't seem to.
I don't know that they have any relevance either. I don't think they're going to shed much light for the jury on anything, but they also may be neither here nor there, and so therefore not prejudicial. If they're on the same thumb drive, I don't have a problem with them coming in. So, all right, we'll be able to mark the thumb drive.
Thank you. Should we do that now, Judge?
Sure. Let's bring our jury in.
This will be 33, so Mark, thank you.
more to see in case anyone wants to look at it. She has it, or you guys can see it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Phil, we're good to go. We're gonna make this.
All right for the juice?
But yes, not right.
Be seated.
Jessica Brown.
Right this way. All right. Ask you to stand behind this blue line, please.
You'd raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Yourself comfortable in that chair. You're going to speak in that mic.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. In a nice loud voice, could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Jessica Brown, Brown.
And ma'am, where do you work?
I work for the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
How long have you been an employee of the State Police Crime Lab?
A little over 20 years.
Okay. And what is your current position, ma'am?
I'm a forensic scientist 3, which is a supervisor in the Trace, Arson, and Explosives Unit.
Okay. And real briefly, could you tell the jury a little bit about your education prior to coming to the lab?
I have a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry from Colgate University and a Master of Science in Forensic Science from Florida International University.
Okay. And after getting those degrees, did you go into forensic science as a profession?
Yes, I actually received my graduate degree while I was employed at the crime lab.
Okay. So since graduating from college, you've been at the crime lab and got that master's degree while working at the crime lab?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you do continuing education and training as a member of the crime lab?
Yes.
What sort of training and ongoing trainings do you participate in?
So you would do an in-house training at the start of your employment, regardless of which unit you're in. You would be trained in whatever testing for that unit. We are also required to have continuing education annually. That could be a specialized training by instrument manufacturers for the instrumentation that we utilize in casework. Could be specialized training by our federal entities like the FBI, DEA, or ATF. Or it could be professional membership meetings for various forensic science organizations.
Right. As a member of the Trace, Arson, and Explosives Unit, what are your normal duties?
So I oversee other forensic scientists in that unit, as well as performing casework in fire debris analysis, which are arson cases, in primer gunshot residue cases, in explosives cases, and other miscellaneous cases, which tend to be poisonings.
Okay, so this, you got involved in the investigation into the death of an individual named Leroy Fowler. That's sort of one of those miscellaneous type cases.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And fair to say that your role in this particular case was just to actually sample some liquids. And by sample, I mean take them out of containers, put them in other containers, and have them sent to a lab that could do some additional testing. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Back in 2022, when this case started, the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab did not test for ethylene glycol, correct?
In non-biological samples, correct.
Okay. So that means that if someone wanted to test for ethylene glycol in liquid or in like water or whatever, that's not a test the lab could do.
At the time of the case in 2022, correct.
Okay. So you were asked to sample, initially in January of 2023, you were asked to prepare 3 samples for a send out to another forensic lab called NMS, correct?
I actually sampled those in December of 2022, but yes, those samples were prepared at that time for send out.
Okay, so December 2022. And what were the 3 samples of liquid that you were asked to send out at that period of time?
So at that period of time, there was an item labeled 2-1. It was a RainX deicer container, and that contained an orange liquid. Item 2-2 was a Powerade fruit punch bottle, and that contained also an orange liquid. And item 2-4 was a sealed specimen container that also had an orange liquid.
Okay. With respect to the deicer bottle, ma'am, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 22 in this case. And does that look essentially what item 2-1 appeared to be at the time that you took it?
Aside from being able to look at the numbers specifically for the UPC code and the lot number print that was on it, it does appear similar to that bottle that I examined.
All right. And then show you what's been marked as Exhibit 20. Does that appear also to be similar to the Powerade bottle that you sampled back in December 2022?
It is a Powerade bottle, but again, without referencing the UPC codes or other documented numbers that I noted in my case file, I would not be able to confirm.
Up on the top little part of the bottle, there is a lab number.
Yes.
Is that something you would have put on there, or somebody else at the lab would have put on there just to mark it as the actual Powerade bottle?
I myself did not mark that, but yes, that would have been added at the laboratory. I couldn't say for sure who did, but that is the laboratory associated for this case.
All right.
Judge, I would make a motion to stipulate. I don't know if you want to hear that at sidebar or just do it on the fly.
A motion to stipulate to what?
That these are the items that were taken from Judy Church's house and put to this crime lab for her examination.
You agree to the stipulation, Mr. Camille? Right. A stipulation, jurors, is simply an agreement by counsel for both sides that whatever facts are stipulated to are true and can be accepted as true by you without the need for any further supporting evidence. So in this case, the parties are stipulating orally that those 2 items are in fact the items, that the ones just shown to the witness, Ms. Brown, are the items that were seized from Ms. Church's house.
All right. And the third item that you described for us was, you said, a specimen jar that had an orange liquid in it. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I think the defense might also agree to this, but I'll just ask the question. You understood that to have been a liquid that had been taken out of a Fanta can and put into an open Fanta can and put into that specimen jar so that it wouldn't leak all over the place?
Yes, that's my understanding.
We so stipulate.
All right. So with respect to the item that's been described as 2-4 by the witness, which I think she had said was a sealed specimen container, there's a stipulation by the parties, which you may now accept, that the liquid in that particular sealed container, item 2-4, came from a Fanta can.
All right.
That was taken from, I guess, the premises 108 Central.
Correct.
In Salisbury.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scully. Now, with respect to those 3 items, ma'am, what were you going to do in order to sample some of the liquid and send it out to the NMS Labs for further testing?
So typically with these types of cases, we would document the items with photographs. Because 2 of those items were further requested for fingerprints and DNA analysis, we would appropriately wear personal protective equipment to ensure no contamination and minimize the handling of the evidence when sampling the liquid. So for item 2-1 and 2-2, I did those appropriate measures and steps to ensure no contamination, sampled the liquids, and put them in the supplied containers to be sent for send out to NMS. For item 2-4, since it had already been removed from the container that fingerprints and DNA had been requested on, that was not further submitted to our crime scene services unit or criminalistics unit for that type of testing and preparation. So I just sampled it after taking photographs.
And to sample the Powerade and to sample the deicer, just take a little pipette and pipette out a little bit and put it in the little cylinder supplied by NMS. Is that fair?
Yes, so yes, a pipette was utilized to sample out the liquids.
Okay. And I'm just going to show you a photograph, ma'am. Okay, great. And do you recognize what I'm showing you in that particular photograph right there?
Yes, I do.
So what do you recognize that to be?
So this is item 2-2 for laboratory number 22-24257. It has the date as well as my initials in this photograph.
All right. And is that true and accurate representation of the way the Powerade bottle looked when you first received it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to the next exhibit.
Any objection, Mr. Scully?
No objection, Your Honor.
Next exhibit.
Exhibit 34, Sir Matt.
Put that up for a second on the screen so everyone can see it. Is that
Yes.
something you can see? Okay,
Yes.
great. And that is a true and accurate representation of what we just marked as Exhibit 34?
Yes.
All right. So it was that little orange liquid at the bottom you would have sampled out of, how much did you take out approximately?
It was more than 5 milliliters. It's my understanding that NMS has a restriction on the amount of liquid that they would test, so I had to take out at least 5 milliliters.
5 milliliters?
Milliliters, excuse me.
All right, and so that would go into a little cylinder provided by NMS, gets sealed up, and that one is ready to go out. Fair?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Do the same thing with the RainX?
Yes.
Okay, take a little 5 millimeters, 7 milliliters out or so, and put it in a little cylinder, and that goes off to NMS?
Yes.
Okay, and then same with the liquid that was in the specimen jar. Take a little sample of that, put it in the little cylinder, and off it goes.
Yes.
Okay. While sampling the Powerade, did you make any observations about the liquid that was inside of the Powerade?
Yes. So as part of our examinations, we will typically note if there are characteristic odors. This is more so for our fire debris cases, but also for miscellaneous cases. So we will note if there is a specific odor that can be characterized. For the item 2-2, I noted that there was a fruity odor.
All right. Now, later on in the as the investigation continued, were you provided with 2 more samples, 2 more items that you were asked to sample to send off for further testing at NMS Labs?
Yes.
Okay. And what were those 2 items that you were asked to sample and send out to NMS?
So as part of submission 6 to the laboratory, there were 2 unopened containers that were submitted, items 6-1 and 6-2. Those were an unopened container of the RainX deicer and an unopened container of Shop Pro Antifreeze.
Okay. And again, perhaps Mr. Scully would stipulate that those were the 2 items that were purchased by the state police and sent to the crime lab for comparison testing, and those had nothing to do with anything ever owned by Ms. Church or anyone else involved in the case. Those were purchased at the store just for a comparison of the contents of those items.
No objection. I would stipulate to that.
All right, so that stipulation has been entered. So when you hear about unopened bottles of RainX and Antifreeze, you now understand they were purchased by the state police for comparison purposes and sent to the lab for sampling and sending out to this NMS entity.
And so you did the same thing with those liquids that you did with the other liquids that we just discussed as part of, that were part of the submission number 2-1, 2-2, 2-4?
Yes.
Okay. Right. And just, hopefully it was clear, but just so it's clear, all you did was facilitate getting those liquids from the crime lab in Massachusetts to NMS so that they could do the testing, and you actually yourself didn't do any testing on any of those liquids.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Scully.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just have a few, I think, questions and follow-up, if that's all right.
Certainly.
Okay. So if we could pull up what's been previously marked Exhibit 33, Judge, during the break for cross-examination purposes and to show the jury.
Ms. Jurors, I doubt any of you are keeping track of the exhibits, but if you are, we admitted an exhibit in your absence. Exhibit 33 is a thumb drive containing photographs taken by lab personnel. Some, I think you'll hear, were taken by Ms. Brown, some by other, at least one other person. But these are photographs of various items that ended up with the Mass State Police Crime Laboratory. This is Exhibit 33, and there's a photograph up on the screen right now from this exhibit. Go ahead, Mr. Scully.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. So the first photograph here is of the RainX deicer, item number 2-1. It has a ruler and your initials in the foreground, correct?
Correct.
And did you actually take that photograph?
I did.
And there's a stipulation that basically provides that this is the item that you photographed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
What's the exhibit number that you're
sorry,
holding?
thank you for the clarification. All right. Exhibit 22 is the RainX bottle. Right?
Is there a question for the witness?
I just need a moment if I could, Your Honor. Okay. And this bottle of deicer by RainX, Exhibit 22, contains an orange fluid in it, right?
Yes, an orange liquid.
An orange liquid. And it has a label affixed to it explaining certain ingredients and precautions, right?
Yes.
And it does say on the label, this product contains a bittering agent, right?
Unfortunately, I'd have to actually read the label to
approach?
confirm that.
You may.
That line right there.
Yes, it says this product contains a bittering agent.
Okay, and there's a sentence under that that looks like it's tough to read, but can you read it?
It is partially obscured. It appears to be talking about how to store and transport it.
Okay. All right, but you can clearly see that there's a bittering agent, at least on the label here, right?
It is labeled that it contains a bittering agent.
Okay. Now, are you aware of a product called denatonium benzoate?
That is definitely a compound.
Okay, and do you know what it is?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. Are you aware of Mass General Law? Just a minute, Judge. Sorry. Chapter 94, Section 303N, that requires a product called denatonium benzoate to be included in engine coolant and antifreeze products in Massachusetts that have more than 10% ethylene glycol?
I'm not familiar with that general law.
Okay. In your role at the Mass State Police lab in 2022, you've got this bottle. It says bittering agent on it. Did you take any steps to determine whether or not there was in fact a bittering agent in that bottle?
I performed no testing for this case.
Okay. And what about samples were prepared from that bottle, correct?
A sample was taken from the bottle and sent out for testing.
To NMS, the laboratory, right?
Correct.
And with instructions to test for ethylene glycol. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were instructions given to also test for a bittering agent?
You'd have to ask the NMS folks.
But wouldn't the instructions come from Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab? Like, this is what we want you to do?
Since my unit does not do the send-outs for that type of testing, I couldn't confirm what type of communication is made between NMS and the laboratory.
Okay. All right, so you don't know, and is there somebody at the crime lab, you've got different units, right?
Yes.
You got a DNA unit to check DNA,
A DNA test for DNA.
and you've got a unit that specializes in fingerprints,
Crime scene services.
crime scene services, and you've got your unit, which was trace arson.
Trace arson and explosives.
Right, so you've got these different units, and you've got a case like this that comes in the door that's, I think you described it as miscellaneous.
That's the type of testing that would be performed within my unit.
Okay. And so you've got this evidence coming in, fair to say, to the crime lab, and it's going to go through these different departments, right?
Yes.
Is there one person at the crime lab whose job it is to know what each of the different units are doing?
Not sure if I understand your question.
So in other words, you don't know what happened in the fingerprint unit, right?
You mean as far as the type of testing that they performed?
Yeah, in this case, do you know what happened?
All I know is that I sent those containers on for fingerprints by our crime scene services section.
Okay. And you didn't participate in the DNA testing that was done, right?
Correct. I performed no testing in this case.
Right. So you've got these different departments, including yours. What I'm wondering is there one person at the lab who's sort of the captain, the team leader, who's going to make sure that they know what everybody's doing and what the results are?
I don't know if it's really about what the results are. We do have a case management unit that is sort of like a point person for requests for testing, but I can't confirm what that unit does or does not communicate to agencies and or NMS.
To your knowledge, was there a single person at the crime lab who would have an overview of all the different steps taken and where the evidence went and how it was tested and what the results were? One person with a name.
Again, I would anticipate that that person would reside in case management, but I couldn't tell you who that was.
In this case, you don't know who that was?
No, I don't know if there was one person who was responsible for all of the testing as well as all the results and communications.
Okay, fair enough. So a sample from the RainX gets sent to NMS to be tested for ethylene glycol, right?
That is my understanding of what the send-out testing was requested.
But unknown about a bittering agent, right?
Again, I can't speak for NMS and what they test for.
Okay. Or even what Mass State Police Crime Lab asked them to test for. You can't speak to that either.
Correct.
But you can speak to the fact that they were told to test for ethylene glycol.
The sample was submitted to the laboratory with the request to test for ethylene glycol. And since my unit at the time did not do that testing, we had to send it out to NMS for that type of testing.
Okay. Next picture, please. We could just scroll through Next. All right, this is a photograph of the Powerade bottle, right?
Correct.
And this is the same, is this your initials again on that, right?
Yes.
Correct? And this is item 2-2, right?
Correct.
And in that Powerade bottle is an orange liquid, right?
Correct.
And there seems to be some condensation that appears visible that looks like it's inside that bottle. Is that correct?
There are droplets of liquid inside the bottle. As to whether that's condensation, I cannot confirm that. But there are droplets of liquid on the inside of the bottle.
Okay. And that liquid, do you know when it was put in the bottle?
No.
Do you know what that liquid is?
Again, I did not do any testing for this case.
Okay, so you've got the bottle itself, the label, a little hard to see there, but it says fruit punch, right?
Yes, the label did indicate that that Powerade was a fruit punch flavor.
And that's red, right? Fruit punch Powerade, red?
Typically, it is red.
Okay, and this is orange, right?
Correct.
So is that Powerade in there?
Again, I did not perform any testing, so I cannot tell you what that liquid is.
Did anybody, to your knowledge, test to see whether that the liquid is Powerade?
Again, I cannot comment on the testing that NMS performed.
Okay, or anyone at Mass State Police Crime Lab?
Correct.
Okay. And red, if this was, it's possible that this would be a mixture of liquids, right?
I guess I don't really understand what your question is since I don't know the nature of the liquid.
Right.
I can't really comment on whether it is or is not a mixture.
Okay, well, if it was originally red Powerade and now it's orange liquid, to make it orange, to make red turn orange, you have to add yellow, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you'd have to add enough yellow that it gets all the way to that orange, which is a true orange, right?
That is a true orange. I can't really comment as to how you would make that orange color since, again, didn't do any testing on this liquid, cannot confirm what it is. But based on my experience in my lifetime, red mixed with yellow does make orange.
The extent of your testing was to smell it and describe it as fruity.
No, the extent of what I did was take photos, sample it, and note any characteristic odors if there were any.
Okay. And you came up with fruity.
Yes.
And that would have been from putting your nose in the bottle.
Not in the bottle. You sort of hold the open container and waft with your hand so that you're not getting into the space since the container had been requested for fingerprints and DNA. You try not to manipulate the container as much as possible.
And do you record that fruity flavor in your notes somewhere?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you could detect it wafting.
Yes.
All right. Now, and is that a scientific process?
It is part of the process that we do for certain types of cases. Whether you would define it as scientific,
Right.
I leave that up to you.
Well, the problem is it's so subjective, right?
I suppose odors are subjective.
Somebody might describe something as fruity. Somebody else might smell the same thing, describe it differently, right?
That is possible.
Somebody might notice it. Somebody might not, right?
That is correct.
And sometimes what we smell is influenced by our eyeballs, right?
No.
In other words, you look at a glass of red wine and you think, oh, that's probably red wine, and you smell it and it kind of reaffirms what you thought.
That is possible. However, based on the type of testing that I do at the laboratory involving fire debris cases, a lot of times those cases are charred debris. Doesn't mean that I always smell
I don't mean always. I just mean we're
Yeah.
human beings and our senses work as a team. They work in tandem, right?
Based on the cases that I work on and my experience, I describe odors based on what I smell, not what I see.
And denatonium benzoate, what does that smell like?
I couldn't tell you, sir.
Okay. All right. So you take a sample from item 2-2. That photograph, has the sample already been taken out or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. That's the full sample that came in that bottle up there from Judy Church's house where the search warrant was executed, right?
It was submitted to the laboratory where it was seized from. You'd have to speak to the
Well,
troopers.
that's the stipulation we have, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that full amount before anything was taken out of it, was an exact measurement taken?
No, it was not.
So you don't know exactly scientifically how much is in there?
No.
All right, and then you used a some kind of you transferred that orange liquid into something else. Is that correct?
I transferred a portion of that liquid into a supplied specimen container that NMS utilizes for their send-out testing.
Okay, so where was the pipette inserted into this container and then the liquid drawn?
Yes, so as you see it, it's capped currently.
Yes.
I opened the cap.
Yes.
The pipette was put into
Thank
the
you.
container. A portion of the liquid was pulled out and put into the specimen container for NMS.
Was an exact measurement of how much was taken out in the pipette done?
So I did an approximation. The containers that NMS provide are sort of these plastic graduated containers. So they sort of have what the volume is on the side of it. And so I sort of looked at that, but I did not measure with a graduated cylinder or something more precise for what the volume was.
Okay, so we don't have an exact measurement, fair to say?
I did not provide an exact
Right.
volume or measurement for this
And then
liquid.
you use the pipette to put it into the container that was provided by NMS. Is that right?
The specimen container, yes.
Yeah. So now you've got that ready to ship to NMS for further testing, right?
Yes, I couldn't personally put it for send out through NMS, but our toxicology unit did.
Okay. And so, and the purpose of the testing of that sample when it goes to NMS is going to be to test for something called ethylene glycol, right?
Again, when the samples came to the laboratory, that was the request for testing. And since my laboratory and my specific unit did not do that testing, it needed to be sent out to NMS.
Okay. So I don't know I don't know if you answered my question or not.
Well, I think what the witness has said a couple of times is that she didn't give a direction to NMS.
Right.
And it went out from another lab, but because she knows the sample came to her lab for ethanol glycol testing, which they don't do, is her understanding or belief that it was going to NMS for that NMS for that purpose.
For the purpose of testing for ethylene glycol. That
Do I
was
have
your
that correct, Ms.
understanding.
Brown?
Yes.
So she didn't give the instructions. She doesn't see exactly what NMS were told, but because it came to their lab for that testing and they couldn't do it, and that's why it was going to NMS, it's her belief that that's what NMS would have been told to test for, but she doesn't have firsthand knowledge of that.
Right.
That's why she's not answering those questions so directly.
And you've been involved with this case for a long time, right?
Well, the items were submitted to our laboratory in 2022.
And you've testified in court previously, right?
In motions, yes.
And you've met with the prosecutor multiple times, right?
I have spoken to the prosecutor multiple times.
So being around the case, you know what the basic issues in the case are relative to ethylene glycol and a bittering agent, right?
Yes.
You're aware of that? Okay.
Yes.
So you're aware, after the judge's questions, I think you're aware that the sample that you took out was sent to NMS for testing for ethylene glycol,
Yes.
right? You're unaware of whether it was sent to NMS for the purpose of testing for any type of bittering agent,
Judge,
correct?
Asked and answered for like the fourth time.
Well, I'll allow you to answer that with respect to the bittering question, or are you aware whether it was sent for that or not?
Again, I'm not aware of what type of testing was requested at NMS and what type of testing NMS performed on this item.
Okay. And so now you've got this, after you've used the, I hope I say it right, the pipette to withdraw some amount of this liquid from that Powerade bottle. Now you've got a Powerade bottle with the remaining liquid in it, correct?
Yes.
Do you take the remaining liquid and separate it from the bottle?
I did not for this case.
Okay, because the bottle is up there marked as an exhibit. It's now empty, right?
It appears empty.
Okay. Do you know when that bottle got emptied?
No, I do not.
Okay. But at some point, it did.
It appears empty now.
So, and now you have this remaining sample that's at your State Police Crime Lab, right?
Do you mean the liquid or?
Yep. So 2022.
Yep.
You took a pipette worth out. You've got a portion of the liquid left in the Powerade, right?
Yes.
Do you screw the top back on?
Yes, I did.
Screw the top back on. Okay, great. Now, where does that Powerade bottle go?
So for item 2-2 and 2-1, since.
Just 2-2 for now.
Okay. So for item 2-2, since fingerprints and DNA were requested on the container, that item was submitted subsequently to our evidence control unit to be sent to those additional units for testing.
Okay. And do you know whether the liquid was taken out before or in conjunction with any of that testing?
As I had mentioned, I'm unaware of when the liquid was removed from that bottle.
Okay. And then that bottle and that liquid are stored somewhere at the, stored somewhere between then and trial now, right?
Yes, we would be able to see its chain of custody while it remained at the laboratory.
Okay.
But once it leaves the laboratory, we wouldn't be in control of that chain of custody.
Do you know, do you know where it was stored? In other words, was it refrigerated? Was it in a cabinet? Was it on a shelf? Know anything about that?
Do you mean prior to my testing or after my testing?
After you used the pipette to take the liquid out, where was it stored? The liquid or the Powerade bottle?
I'd be able to reference that if you had a chain of custody for that item that was after I had seen it.
Okay.
I only have the chain of custody in my case file for prior to my testing.
Okay, so you don't know what happened to it after that?
Correct.
Okay. And just so I think the record is clear, so ethylene glycol is a product that is commonly used in antifreeze and engine coolant and products along those lines, right?
It is a compound that is present in those types of products.
Okay. Next photo, please. Next. 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 Okay, this photograph here, you recognize that? That is item number 2-4.
Yes.
Is that the item that was sent to NMS?
So a portion of the liquid that was present in that sealed specimen container was sent to NMS.
So that is item 2-4, what's inside of that container that's depicted there?
An orange liquid.
The orange liquid. And is that the orange liquid that's taken from the RainX, or is that the orange liquid taken from the Fanta?
This was labeled as coming from the Fanta can.
From the Fanta can, okay. All right, now, did you prepare this sample?
Do you mean how it is depicted in this
Yeah.
picture?
Well, let me back up. Somewhere back there's a Fanta can, right?
Yes, there is a Fanta can.
It has liquid in it.
Whether it had liquid in it or not, I
Did
can't
you ever
speak to
see
that.
it?
No, I did not.
Okay. But, so tell me what you think happened, right? Because here,
Objection, Judge. The objection to what she think happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got to testify to what her knowledge is.
okay, so I appreciate that, Judge. So here, your initials are on this sample, and inside it is, tell me what?
So inside this container is an orange liquid. Based on the labeling that was supplied to the laboratory, it is my understanding that this liquid was removed from a open Fanta container.
Okay. Is it all the liquid that was removed from the open Fanta container or a portion of it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Who would know?
Whoever removed the liquid from that open Fanta container.
What department would that be?
Since it came into the laboratory like this,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how it was removed.
Okay. Let's go to the next picture. Next picture. Okay, is this the same item? Just a different view?
Yes, this is the heat-sealed plastic bag that the item was contained in.
Okay, next picture. Next picture. Okay, this completes, I believe, the photographs that were taken that have your initials. I think you took all those photographs, is that correct?
I did take all those photos. It's actually not a complete representation. There were some photos, I believe, that you sort of like skipped through, but yes,
But they were on there, but I just didn't spend a lot of time asking you questions about them.
correct.
Okay, and they're all marked as part of the exhibit, right?
Yes.
Now, there was a second file on this, exhibit number 33 has those photographs, and then there's a set of other evidentiary photographs that have been admitted as part of this exhibit. That number, 24257 Salisbury, do you recognize that number?
That is the laboratory the laboratory number associated with this case.
And there are some initials on there, HAS, right?
I couldn't really speak to those initials, but I can speak to the initials that are exhibited on the top of the box, which are mine.
Oh, yeah. And then number 3354, right?
Yes, that is what appears to be 3354.
What's that mean?
That would typically be the trooper or sergeant number
Okay.
for identification,
All right.
usually with the crime scene services section.
And 24257, that's the number for the crime lab that you gave these items, right?
I didn't personally give it that laboratory number, but that is the laboratory number associated with this case.
Okay. Next picture. And just next picture. Next. Next. Okay, next. There's a bag of evidence. Your initials are on it, right?
Yes.
Next. 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 All right, and then this is another photograph of the RainX, right?
It is a photograph of a RainX bottle, and based on the previous photographs, which indicated that it was item 2-1.
Okay, next.
Mr. Scully, I'm going to stop you there. We've hit the lunch hour.
Okay.
So we're going to take the lunch recess for an hour, jurors, and then we'll continue with the cross-examination of Ms. Brown at 2 o'clock or 2:30.
All rise. Just leave your notebooks in here.
We'll be in recess for an hour.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
Court is back in session. You can see the silence all cell phones.
Your Honor, good afternoon. We're back on the record with case on trial. We have all our jurors here. Shall the
right.
witness resume the stand?
I'm sorry?
Witness?
Yes, please.
Witness may resume the stand. Yes? Yeah, they go right there.
Billy, you can line them up and bring them right in.
All right, for the judge.
Page number is that? Do we know?
Be seated.
Quiet, Mr. Scully.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a few more questions about the pictures from Exhibit 33 that we left off on. I'm going to scroll through a few to get to the end, so if we could get help with that, Ms. Marsh. Okay, if we could back it up one. All right, so this image on Exhibit 33 appears to be the top of a can of soda or something with orange underneath it. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And if we go to the next image, you see the Fanta soda can, right?
Yes.
And so that means that that's the Fanta soda can that would have been delivered from the collection of evidence to the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab in this case, right?
Again, I didn't see this item, so I really can't speak to
Right.
where it came from.
You did testify on direct examination, I think, though, to some of your actions with the contents that were believed to be from that can. Is that right?
Yes.
And the contents were assigned 2-4 as a number. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so that can there, do you happen to know whether that can still has liquid in it?
Again, I did not see this item, so I really can't speak to the nature of it.
Okay. And we may have covered this earlier, I just forget. So was a portion of the item 2-4 saved at the Massachusetts Crime Lab, or was it all sent, the whole portion sent to NMS for testing?
So for item 2-4, which was the liquid in the specimen container, a portion of that was sampled out and sent to NMS. The remainder would have been retained in that specimen container and sealed.
Okay, and sealed. All right. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Camellia.
Just a couple. You said on direct examination that you wore protective clothing or gear when you sampled the Powerade bottle so as not to compromise fingerprints or DNA. Is that correct?
Yes, it's referred to as personal protective equipment.
All right, PPE. What sort of PPE were you wearing when you did the Powerade sample?
So I had a clean laboratory coat on, as well as safety goggles, a mask, and gloves that were changed out frequently.
And with regard to the other two items, item 2-1, which was the deicer, and 2-4, which was the liquid in the specimen, did you note any odors or smells associated with those two items? We'll start with 2-1, the deicer. Did you notice any odors associated with that?
So I did not note any characteristic odors for 2-1.
How about 2-4, the specimen, the liquid in the specimen container?
So for item 2-4, that orange liquid had a very subtle fruity odor, not as strong as the fruity odor in 2-2.
Great, thank you. Nothing further, Judge.
Mr. Scully.
Just a quick follow-up on the fruity odor. So are you aware that denatonium benzoate is an odorless substance?
I don't know any specifics about that chemical.
Okay, and are you aware that that's a bittering agent?
Again, I don't know anything about that chemical.
Thank you, fair enough. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Judge, I'll return Exhibit 33 for the
Right.
record to the table.
Dr. Naomi Shin.